Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining in. We are on chapter 2 of the matchless gift, which is Krishna consciousness, right? There's no other gift which is better than giving somebody or reviving somebody's Krishna consciousness. So that's what we were reading. Prabhupada was mentioning here how a physician may prescribe an expensive medicine or a cheap medicine depending on the gravity of the disease. If the disease is very severe, it requires a surgery. If it's just a headache, then we can just do with Crocin or something like that, isn't it? That's what Prabhupada is saying. But one should follow the prescribed cures to become healthy. Right? Kaler doshe nidhe rajan. Asti hi ekon mahan gunaha. Kirtanadeva krishnasya mukta sangha param vrajet. Right? Kaler doshe nidhe rajan. Right? In Kali Yuga, there are doshas. There are so many things which contribute towards inauspiciousness. Nidhe Rajan, right? Many uncountable, right? Kaler doshe nidhe Rajan. What are the doshas? You know that, right? Prayen alpayushas sabya. Kalavasmin yuge janaha. Manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrataha. Right? We have low ayu. That means we have low lifespan. And then we have manda sumanda matayo. We are manda bhagya. That means we are foolish, we are quarrelsome, we are unfortunate. Manda sumanda mat, we are lazy, we are misguided. Manda bhagya, we are unfortunate. And overall, we are always quarrelsome. Right? Manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya upadrataha. So all of these faults are there in Kali Yuga. However, Kirtanadeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. Whatever in Satya Yuga, what was achieved by meditation, in Treta Yuga by performance of yajnas, in Dwapara Yuga by doing deity worship, can be attained in this age of Kali simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So very simply, we have to sit in the comforts of our house and simply chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and we can attain Krishna Prema, which is the goal of everybody, irrespective of whatever yuga. But depending on the severity of the disease, right, the medicine is also given like that. So in Kali Yuga, it is so much of faults, right? So is the medicine very, very difficult? The medicine is simple, right? What is the prescribed medicine for Kali Yuga to get out of this material world? Hare Nama, eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva gatiranyata. Only by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, only by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, only by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we can get out of this material world and go back to the eternal spiritual world, especially in this age of Kali. That's what is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, right? Iti shodashakam namnam Kali kalmashanashanam nato paratropaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. This is also the injunction of all the scriptures. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can go back home, back to Godhead. And this is what is mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. So how is it? Yeah, in the previous paragraph only we read, if the disease is very severe, then the medicine is too much, isn't it? The surgery is required. Anesthesia may be required. But if the disease is simple like a headache, then you just get along with aspirin or Crocin like that. But in Kali Yuga, it is very, very dreaded condition with very, very fallen age. But how is it that we are simply getting over with the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? So Prabhupada explains this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a very simple process. Right? It is simple for the simple, but it is difficult for the complicated. Unfortunately, we have complicated our lives to such an extent that simple living and high thinking is no longer in our vision. Right? We want to get the best of cars, we want to get the best of houses, we want to get the best of everything, we want to get even with people, we want to be extremely competitive. So to live a simple life has become difficult, right? This is a simple process, but to be simple is very difficult, right? In this time and age. That is why a simple process, right? Simply chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, with absorption, attention, and awareness will give us Krishna Prem. Attentive chanting, right? Following the 4 regulative principles will give us Krishna Prem. Unfortunately, we have so many things ringing in the mind. I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to get over with this person, I have to get this, why am I not getting this? Lamentation and hankering. There's so much running in our heart that our mind is not able to focus on this chanting. So the simple process has become difficult in this age of Kali. Why? Because of the unlimited layerings of lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion that have accumulated in our heart. So we continue with the process of Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting. What does it do? Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam udivardhanam pratipadam purna amrita swadhanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana process. What does it do? It starts off with Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Right? It kills, extinguishes the fire of material existence that is there in our hearts. Slowly the moon, the cooling moon rays of coolness will embark in our heart. Right? Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitharanam. And then Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Right? Knowledge follows. Vidya Vadu Jivanam. Right? I mean, we have this transcendental knowledge, and what happens? Anandam Budivardhanam Pratipadam. Right? That means we develop bliss in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Anandam Budivardhanam. That's Ruchi stage. Anandam Budivardhanam Pratipadam. Purna Amrita Swadhanam. Right? We are relishing the taste of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Sarvatma Snapadam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. In this way, slowly from Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivrti, Ruchi, Asakti, Nishtha. First we have to be fixed, right? We have to be very stably fixed in Krishna consciousness. So Nishtha, after Nishtha develops Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema. Finally, the fruits of Krishna Prema will bear in the heart of that devotee who continues this process of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, engages in this process of Cheto Darpana Marjanam with Utsahat, Nischayat and Dhairyat. And then the simple process, which is supposed to give simple results, right? But unfortunately for us, in this age of Kali, since we have complicated our lives, right? We are having so much of problems. But the process given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It is Shodashakam Namnam Kali Kalmashanashanam, right? What is that? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? Ram Nam Japana, Raghu Ram Nam Japana, Ram 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 Japo Nam Japo Re, Manava Nam Japo Re. Right? If we simply continue to chant, whether we have taste, whether we want to chant or not, we continue to chant, then just like we don't know how the medicine is acting in our body. Doctor is giving us a medicine. We're taking that medicine. We don't know how it is acting in our body, which part of the body is going into, how the blood is carrying that medicine throughout our body and how we are getting better. We don't know. Similarly, by simply taking this medicine of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we will get cured of this disease of material existence. And we do not even know the process. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Cheto Darpana Marjanam up to Krishna Prem is Cheto Darpana Marjanam up to the level of Krishna Prema is possible simply by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we simply follow the process and we wait with patience for the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. Today is the most auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima. Wonderful occasion of Guru Purnima, right? Yasya prasadat, Bhagavat prasado, yasya aprasadanna gati kutopi, right? So, by the mercy of the spiritual master, we can get Krishna. Without the mercy of the spiritual master, we will not get Krishna. That is why we have to follow the instructions of the Guru. We have to work for the pleasure of the Guru. We have to please the Guru. In this way, we'll please Krishna. And today is also the most auspicious occasion of Tirabhav Tithi of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Srila Sanatana Goswami is the Sambandha Acharya who establishes our relationship with Krishna. Only when we know the relationship, then we will do in the Navavidha Bhakti, isn't it? If we don't know the relationship, then I think I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, and then I do whatever my mind tells me, right? But then when I understand from the Vedic scriptures, from Guru, Shastra and Sadhu, that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, my duty is to serve Krishna, then our Sambandha is very clearly fixed. That Sambandha Acharya who worship Madan Mohan, right? We want to get attracted to Krishna, right? That is why we want to establish our relationship. We want to establish our relationship with that Mohan who even attracts the Madan, right? Madan Mohan, right? We want to attract, we want to get ourselves attracted to that Lord who attracts even the Cupid. But unfortunately, we don't have any attraction. So we want to establish our relationship. And for that, we need to pray to Sambandha Acharya. Srila Sanatana Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, who got personal instructions from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So we can beg for Sri Sanatana Goswami's mercy that we may also establish our relationship firmly with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, engage in the process of bhakti and perfect our lives in this lifetime. Sri Sanatana Goswami Kiroba Mahamahotsava ki jai, Vyasa Purnima Mahamahotsava ki jai. So it is said that anybody who preaches Krishna consciousness, anybody who sits in that asan of instructing, that person actually sits in a Vyasa asan. Why is it called Vyasa asan? Because Vyasa is a literary incarnation of the Lord. And all of our spiritual masters are said to be are said to be representatives of Srila Vyasadeva, right? That is why we call the asan where devotees sit to give pravachan, to preach Krishna consciousness, is called the Vyasa asan. That's why when we start the Bhagavatam class, we say, Narayanam namaskrityam narancheva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriet. We beg for the mercy of Vyasadeva along with Saraswati Devi, along with Lord Narayan, right? Before we start the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, so that we can understand the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam exactly like how Vyasadeva intended us to understand, right? So today is Vyasa Purnima, the auspicious appearance day of Vyasadeva. So we can pray at the lotus feet of Srila Vyasadeva, we can pray at the lotus feet of Srila Sanatana Goswami, whose Tirobhakti Tithi it is today, that we may progress in Krishna consciousness and may attain ultimate perfection of Krishna Prema in this lifetime. All right, so let's continue reading. Okay, devotees have raised their hands. All right, Leela Nandini Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, yes.
By accepting the chain of birth and death, the soul accepts a diseased condition. The soul is not subject to birth, death, or disease because it is pure spirit. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that a soul has no birth, no jayade, and that it has no death, mriyate. Na jayade mriyate vakadachinnayam bhutva bhavida vanabhuya ajo nitya shashvado yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 20. Mataji, please scroll. When modern civilization is in dire need of an educational system to give people instructions on what happens after death. In actuality, the present educational system is most defective because unless one knows what happens after death, one dies like an animal. An animal does not know that he is subject to birth, death, or that he is going to have to take another body. Human life, however, should be more elevated. One should not simply be interested in the animalistic functions of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. A living entity may have an abundant supply of food for eating, or many nice buildings for sleeping, or good arrangements for sex life, or a good defense to protect him. But this does not mean that he is a human being. A civilization which is based on this activity should be known to be animalistic. Since animals are also interested in this function, what is the difference between human life and animal life if a human being does not go beyond them? The distinction can be made when a human being becomes inquisitive and asks, why I have been put into this miserable condition? Is there any remedy for it? Is there perpetual eternal life? I do not want to die, nor do I want to suffer. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Haribol, thank you. All right.
Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Dandavat Pranam. So here Prabhupada is making a very beautiful point here, right? Ahara nidra bhayam maitunam cha samanimekam pashubir samanam. Right? Dharmo hi eko adhiko vishesho dharmena hi nam pashubir samanam. If as human beings we don't understand that we have to give up our body by remembering the Lord, the remembrance of the Lord, and how can we develop that? By remembering the Lord all the time throughout our life. If we do that, then we can remember Krishna at the end of our life. If you don't understand this and don't practice this, then we are as good as animals, right? What is the difference between a human life and animal life? The human being does not go beyond them. What is them? Ahara, Nidra, Bhayam, Maithuram. Eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Right? So it is not that just because the animals do all of the things on the road and human beings do it within the nice, carpeted, walled house, right? Does not really change much, right? Because the consciousness is simply that, to eat, to collect, accumulate. In fact, human beings accumulate more than what is necessary. An animal also, when he comes, he finds something. A dog sees 2-3 bones, right? The dog is hungry. The dog eats one bone and then runs away when its hunger is satisfied. But human beings, we accumulate more and more. Not that we just want to eat now, but what if I don't get my next meal? I want to accumulate. I want to hoard things. So we are doing it more sophisticated way, right? We are accumulating more, we are keeping more for ourselves, we are planning for our next meal, we are planning how are we going to sleep tomorrow night, the next 1 year, we are planning for our education, everything we are planning, right? We have the intelligence to plan, right? We are not like, abhi kuch mila to khaya, to abhi next minute we don't have anything to eat, that's fine, right? We are not that such kind of that elevated sadhus, right? At the same time, when we have this intelligence, are we putting the intelligence in the right use, right? If you are just inquiring and finding out what are the means in which I can get food for my, how can I get my next meal? Where will I sleep for the night? Or, how will I protect myself, right? But, what do you call, food, shelter, and clothing. If that is my only contemplation, then I am just a sophisticated 4-legged animal, right? I'm just a 2-legged animal, Prabhupada says, right? But very sophisticated, right? I'm just thinking, using my intelligence, right? Not for the purpose for which the intelligence is given, but for simply getting more food, get more clothing, get more shelter, right? Which all will die with the body, right? If I don't utilize my human form of life to attain perfection of human form of life, which is Krishna consciousness, which is understanding my Swarupa Siddhi, understanding my constitutional position, then, right, tatakim, 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 right? Shankaracharya says, what is the use? What is the use? What is the use of having got this human form of life like that? Okay, Sarva Gopeshwari Mataji, go ahead. The distinction can be made. Yeah.
The distinction can be made when a human being becomes inquisitive and asks, why have I been put into this miserable condition? Is there any remedy for it? Is there perpetual eternal life? I do not want to die, nor do I want to suffer. I want to live very happily and peacefully. Is there a chance for this? What is the method or science by which this can be achieved? When these questions are asked and steps are taken to answer them, our human civilization is the result. If the questions never arise, then that civilization should be known as animalistic. Animals and animalistic human beings are simply interested in continuing the process of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But in actuality, this process is forced to break down. The fact is that there is no real defense because no one can protect himself from the hands of cruel death. For instance, Hiranyakashipu, who wanted to live forever, underwent severe austerities, but he was foiled in the end by the Lord himself in the form of a lion man, Narsimhadeva, who killed Hiranyakashipu with his claws. So-called scientists are now claiming that sometime in the future we should stop death by scientific method. But this is simply another crazy utterance. Stopping death is not at all possible. We may make great advancements in scientific knowledge, but there is no scientific solution to the fourfold miseries: birth, death, old age, and disease. One who is intelligent should be eager to solve these 4 principles problems: birth, death, old age, and disease. No one wants to die, but there is a remedy. There is no remedy. Everyone has to die. Everyone is very anxious to stop the skyrocketing increase of population by employing contraceptive methods, but still birth is going on. There is no stoppage of death, and there is no stoppage of birth. Nor can disease can be stopped, nor can old age, despite all the latest invention in medicine. One might think that he has solved all the problems in his life, But where is the solution to these four problems of birth, death, old age, and disease? That solution is Krishna consciousness. Every one of us giving up his body at every moment. And the last phase of giving up this body is called death. But Krishna also says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataga tatva degam punarjanma neti mavyeti sojuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activity does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna. This is Bhagavad Gita.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Bol. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So here, what is it? What is our method, right? How do we remember Krishna at the time of death? Krishna himself is telling us, right? Two things here. One is, if you are above the animalistic platform of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, then we inquire into higher truths of life. What is the highest truth? Is to understand who I am, why am I suffering here in this material world, what is the eternal destination that I can go, and how can I go there? Right? We know the answer. How can I go there? By always remembering Krishna during our life. When we are living, then what happens? Krishna will ensure that I will remember Krishna at the time of death. Right? But how do we remember Krishna all the time? Right? As Grace Gauranga Prabhu was mentioning, I think I mentioned this in one of the classes, that in the material world, it is love at first sight and divorce at first fight. Why? Because you don't know anything about the other person. You just see that person, it is infatuation. It's just a kind of an attraction without any knowledge. So that's why Gauranga Prabhu was saying, in spiritual world, it is just the opposite. Then in spiritual world, what happens, right? How we are going to develop spiritual love for Krishna? First of all, for all, we are going to understand Krishna. Who is Krishna? How is Krishna our maintainer? How Krishna is our Suhrida Sarva Bhutanam? He is our supreme friend. He is our supreme well-wisher. We are understanding all of that. How the appearance and activities of the Lord are so transcendental. How Krishna can protect. Avishya Rakshibe Krishna. How we can feel protected by the Lord. If you understand all of that, automatically love is the consequence of knowing the greatness of the Lord. That's why Prabhupada also said, you read Bhagavatam in canto from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Where we understand the greatness of the Lord. And then when we come to the 10th canto, then we understand the sweetness of the Lord, right? So first and foremost, what we should understand, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. The tattva of understanding that the Lord and his, nama, rupa, guna, lila, everything are transcendental. They are not subject to this materialistic world, this maya. Right? Daivi Hayesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duratyaya. This Lord's energy is Maya. The Lord can never be subject to Maya. One who understands this tattva, what happens? Tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti mamiti so Arjuna. So that's all we are. That is our goal also. We also want to go back home to Goloka Vrindavan Dham to serve Lord Sri Krishna all the time. Right? So Krishna is giving the formula here. So once such a person who always remembers Krishna, who understands the tattva about Krishna, the supremacy of Krishna, how the Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, all its activities are transcendental. His appearance is to satisfy certain purposes. It does not appear according to his guna and karma like we do. We are forced into this material body. We don't want this material body. We don't want to grow old. We don't want to die. But we can see, right, everybody, right? Even now we cannot even say that people will live up to a certain number of age, right? 100 years is prescribed for Kali Yuga, right? That itself is praya and alpa, it is said, right? It is a very low ayu. People don't even live up to 100, right? People are not even assured of living even up to 50 years these days, right? Very, very, as Kali Yuga progresses, right? The ayu of the people will come down so drastically. Why? Because of exploitation of the material nature. The earth will retort back, right, by giving famine, flood, earthquakes, and all of that, because of which people's lifespan will come down even. So how do we attain back to the supreme abode? Right? We don't have to do meditation. We don't have to do Ashtanga yoga. We don't have to do any complicated process. We simply need to understand about Krishna, hear about Krishna from bona fide authority, understand the supremacy of Krishna, learn to love Krishna, remember Krishna. Right? We always remember those whom we love, isn't it? So in this way, develop love for Krishna, remember Krishna, and then go back, come back to Godhead. Right? Prabhupada explains here. What happens to such a person? Mamiti. He comes back to me. Arjuna Krishna says, he comes back to me. If we are to go to Krishna, we must prepare a spiritual body. That preparation is the process of Krishna consciousness. So this whole life, what are we going to do? We are doing this preparation. And then when is the examination? Death is exam. If one keeps himself in Krishna consciousness, he gradually prepares his next body, which is a spiritual body, which will carry him immediately to Krishna Loka, Krishna's abode, and he will become happy living there perpetually and blissfully. Yadgatwana nivartante tad dama paramam mama. Someone who goes back home, back to Godhead, does not have to come back to this material world. This is what Krishna is promising. Right? So now how do we develop the spiritual body? Here Krishna gives a formula. Now let us go to the next chapter, which is chapter number 3. Yeah, chapter number 3. See, now we know that if we love Krishna, we go back home, back to Godhead, isn't it? But then how to love Krishna? Right? How do we develop that love for Krishna? We know we have to love Krishna, but Krishna does not want to force us to love him, right? But how do we develop that love for Krishna? That is what we will study in chapter number 3, which is learning to love Krishna. How do we learn to love Krishna? Actually, for the Ragatmika Bhaktas, right? They don't hear any sound other than the flute of Krishna. In Bhagavatam, there's one full beautiful chapter which talks about the beautiful sound of Krishna's flute, how it impacts the gopis, how the calves come running, how the cows come running, like that, by just simply hearing Krishna's flute. Right? So the eternally liberated souls, they don't have to learn to love because they already love Krishna. That's why they are in that position. They are in the position of Raganuga Bhaktas, Ragatmika Bhaktas. And even the Raganuga Bhaktas, they develop that kind of love. But we are sadhana siddhas. We don't have love for Krishna. We know Krishna is great. We know if we remember Krishna, we will go back to Godhead. But we can remember Krishna only when we love him. Like Ajamil, he called out Narayana, not because he loved Krishna, but because he loved his son. He called his son Narayan. And in this way, he got a second chance because it happened to be the name of Lord Krishna. So we know we have to love Krishna. So how are we going to develop this dormant love for Krishna? Right? We are all originally Krishna conscious living entities, but due to our contamination with matter, we have forgotten this relationship. So how do we revive our relationship with Krishna? That's what we're going to study in this chapter, learning to love. Okay. So let's see. Navakishori Mataji, go ahead. Contamination from sinful activity from there.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat pranam. Contamination from sinful activity requires a proportionate atonement. That is atonement. That is the prescription of the scriptures. Sukadeva Goswami says that if one accepts atonement before death, in his next life he will not fall down. If he does not atone, he will carry with him the resultant reactions of his sinful activities and will have to suffer. According to law, if a man kills someone, he must himself be killed. The idea of a life for a life is not a very new concept, but can be found in the Manu Samhita, the Vedic law book for mankind, where it is stated that when a king hangs the murderer is actually benefited, for if he is not killed, he will carry the reaction for his murder and will have to suffer in so many ways. Mataji, should I carry on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Mataji. The laws of nature are very subtle and are very diligently administered. Although people do not know it, in the Manu Samhita, the concept of life for a life is sanctioned and it is actually observed throughout the world. Similarly, there are other laws which state that one cannot even kill and without being responsible. Responsible, since we cannot create, we have no right to kill any living entity, and therefore man-made laws that distinguish between killing a man and killing an animal are imperfect. Although there are imperfections in a man-made laws, there cannot be a defect in the laws of God. According to the laws of God, killing an animal is unpunishable as killing a man. Those who draw distinction between the two are concocting their own laws. Even in the Ten Commandments, it is prescribed, "Thou shalt not kill." This is a perfect law, but by discriminating and speculating, man distort it. "I shall not kill men, but I shall kill animals." In this way, people cheat themselves and inflict suffering on themselves and others. In any case, however, God's law will not excuse such behavior.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranam. Thank you.
Hare Bol, Dandavats. So we see many of the politicians, right? They are, I don't want to name anybody, but, they have this, the prevention of cruelty to animals, like that. They have that, a team of people who actually take care of animals, right? Very nice, very wonderful. But if we go and ask them, they themselves eat meat. Right? They want to protect a certain section of animals, but they want to eat a certain other section of animals. Right? They want to protect the dogs, but they want to eat something else. They want to eat chicken or whatever they want to eat. Right? So how is this? Right? That means they're just acting according to whatever gives them pleasure. Right? It gives them some kind of pleasure. Oh, I am protecting these dogs, from being, or I'm protecting this section of animals from being killed. I'm getting name and fame because my name comes in the newspaper. Oh, so and so is protecting the dogs and all that. And then on the other hand, right, they don't have a conscious, they don't understand that, the consciousness is the same, right? A dog, in fact, a cow is considered mother. They don't mind eating beef, but they want to protect dogs, right? So that is all because of ignorance, right? But unfortunately, right, ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? Just like Prabhupada gives example that if you don't know, like for example, you've just learned how to drive a car, or you've just learned how to drive a two-wheeler, you go in the road, right? And then you see the traffic signal, there is a red light, and you don't know the traffic rules, you've not studied. So you don't know, you're ignorant. And then you just go past a red light. Will the traffic constable, allow you because you don't know the rules? No, he's just going to fine you, whether you know it or not. So similarly, ignorance of God's law, right, is no excuse, right? You cannot say, I don't know. That is why I eat, what is that, chicken or beef, etc. But, I have a human heart. That's why I'm protecting the dogs, right? That means according to my own whims and fancies. Whatever I like, I'll protect. Whatever I don't like, I will not protect, right? It's just like Kamsa. It's a demonic mentality, that if you don't act according to the laws of the, the laws of the Lord, which are given in the Vedic scriptures, that means I'm a demon. I must have asuric qualities because I don't work as per the laws of the Lord. That means I don't have an interest to understand what are the laws of the Lord, and I don't want to practice it. That means I have asuric bhava. Just like we were talking about Kamsa, right? He had so much of love for Devaki. But the moment he knew that, the Devaki's 8th son is going to kill him, his asuric mentality, right? Of course, it's a lesson for us. We know that, Kamsa was always thinking of Krishna. He was absorbed in Krishna. That even in enmity, right? Prabhupada is saying, if you are such an enemy that you can be absorbed in Krishna, then at least, you'll be killed by Krishna. And in that way, you'll attain liberation. But we are so materially attached, right? Even we cannot think of Krishna also, in enmity also, right? But we know from the Shastras that Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhaktiruttama. Anukulyena, that means we have to serve the Lord in a favorable way, right? How do I develop that, right? By studying the scriptures. I cannot say I have not read the scriptures. I don't know. I'm like that only, right? If Krishna wants, like sometimes when you go for book distribution, right? Krishna will tell me, right, when I have to buy the book. Now I don't feel like buying. Whenever Krishna tells me in my heart that I have to buy the book, right? What is your free will, right? Where are you utilizing your free will as a human being, right? For Krishna to guide us, we have to invest that faith. Only then Krishna will help us grow our faith. Like that. We just want to pass the buck, right? Whenever Krishna inspires in my heart, I will take a Bhagavad Gita, or I will go to Vrindavan Dham, or I will go here, there. But I will come for a program like that. Right? Very, very, it's an excuse, right? We just want to give some excuse to get out of the situation, right? But here Prabhupada is saying, in any case, God's laws will not excuse such behavior, right? We are responsible for every choice that we make, irrespective of whether we are doing it in knowledge or whether we are doing it in ignorance, does not matter. Just because I don't know, if I kill an animal, then it is given in Bhagavatam. How? I will become that animal, and that animal will become a human being, and I will get killed in this way. So such are the complicated rules of karma, right? And the rule and they say, the windmills of God grind slow but sure, right? Or we will definitely get the reactions. Sometimes we see that somebody who's doing so much eating non-vegetarian food, etc., right? He's got all the sattvic qualities, right? Tolerance and giving charity and all that, right? But we know the laws of karma work in a way that is beyond our comprehension, right? There is kutam, there is bijam, there is falon mukham, etc. We don't know when our karma is going to spring up and give us the bad reactions. That is why we always want to perform a karma. How do we know how to perform a karma? When we study the scriptures under the guidance of a spiritual master. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. God's laws will not excuse such behavior. Whatever be the reason for such bad behavior of killing living entities, right? Prabhupada is saying, can we create a living entity? No. Then what gives us the right to kill a living entity? Isn't it? Whatever it be the yoni, whether it is a fish or a frog or a whatever it may be, right? A chicken or whatever it may be, right? What gives us the right to kill an animal just for my tongue, right? For the palatability of my tongue, I'm killing an animal, and then I have to become that animal and I'll get killed. So the rules of karma, whether we know it or not, work, and the rules cannot be, we cannot cheat or bypass those rules because the rules of the Lord. All right. Karpakavali Mataji, go ahead. Everyone is God's creature, although different bodies or dresses from there.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Mataji, Prabhupada ki jai.
Yes, go ahead.
Everyone is God's creature, although in different bodies or dresses. God is considered the one supreme father. A father may have many children, and some may be intelligent and others not very intelligent. And if an intelligent son tells his father, my brother is not very intelligent, let me kill him, will the father agree? Simply because one son is not very intelligent and the other desires to kill him to avoid the burden, the father will never agree. Similarly, if God is the supreme father, why should he sanction the killing of animals who are also his sons? In Bhagavad Gita, God declares to Arjuna that all I am, that seed-giving father. The Lord says, just as in ordinary material procreation, the father gives the seed and the mother develops the body by supplying the necessary blood to the embryo. Similarly, the living entities, part and parcels of the Supreme Father, are impregnated by the Lord in material nature. The dimension of the spirit soul is very minute and is given in the scriptures as Kesagra, the 1/10,000 of the portion of tip of a hair. We can hardly imagine a very small point divided into thousands of parts. In other words, it is so minute that it cannot be perceived even by the most powerful microscope. Thus, the dimension of the spiritual spark is so minute that it is invisible to mundane vision. All of this information is given in the scriptures, but because we do not have the proper vision, we cannot see. Although our material eyes cannot perceive the dimension of the soul is none other less within the body, and as soon as it departs, it takes another body according to its work. One should always
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so just because we don't perceive certain things with our material eyes, we cannot deny their existence. That's what Prabhupada is saying here. Right? The soul is 1/10,000th tip of a hair. Right? We cannot see the soul. Even with the microscope, we cannot see the soul. But we cannot deny the existence of the soul. Right? We say, oh, this person has passed away. What do we mean passed away? It means the soul has left the body, right? Because the body is the same, right? It is the same body, but only what is missing in the person when the soul has left the body is the consciousness, right? The soul is permeating the entire body, and it can be seen or can be perceived through the consciousness. Because when the soul leaves the body can no longer move, the body can no longer speak, the body can no longer do any action, right? The body is just a jada. right? It is because the living force has left the body, right? It is just a material object, right? Actually made of earth, water, fire, and ether, right? Because the living soul or the living spark, the spiritual spark has left the body, has departed from the body, and the soul is going to take another body according to the mind, intelligence, and false ego, which the soul carries with it, which is our subtle body. But the gross body made of the 5 elements is just lying down there. So what is the difference? The soul has simply left the body. So there is nothing that the body can do on its own, right? So that's what it is, right? So just because we cannot see something, we cannot negate it, right? But we can perceive it. We can very easily see that when we say that the soul has left the body or that person has passed away, that means the soul has left the body, but the body is still there. The body cannot act. So we have to understand by inference. Even if we use a little bit of logic as human beings, we can still understand the presence of the soul that is permeating the entire body through the consciousness through which a person is able to speak or walk or talk or whatever, right? Like that. All right. We'll end with Sindhu Mataji. Go ahead, Mataji. One should always consider. Hare Krishna. Mataji, you're not audible. Are you speaking?
Yeah, it is saying host is not allowing. Now am I audible?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hari Bol. One should always consider that behind these activities is superior superintendence. The living entity works in the material world just as the office worker works at his job and a service record is kept of his performance. The living entity does not know what the opinion of his superior is, but his service record is kept in the office nonetheless, and according to his activities, he is awarded promotion or increment of pay, or sometimes he may be demoted or even fired. Similarly, for all our activities, there are witnesses. Therefore, it is said in the scriptures that the living entities are under superior supervision and that they are rewarded and punished according to their work. Now we have human bodies, but in the next life, we may not have them. We may have something else, better or lower. The type of body is decided by the living entity superiors. Generally, the living entity does not know the signs of how the spirit soul transmigrates from one body to another. Continue, Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead.
The spirit soul transmigrates even in the duration of one's life as the body changes. When the body is first manifest in the womb of the mother, it is very small, just like a pea, and it gradually develops 9 holes, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, 1 genital, and 1 rectum. In this way, the body develops, and as long as it needs to develop within the mother's womb, it remains there. When it's sufficiently developed to go outside, it comes out and grows. Growth entails changing of the body. This change cannot be understood because it is imperceptible to the living entity. In childhood, we had small bodies which now no longer exist. Therefore, it can be said that we have changed our bodies. Similarly, because of the nature of material things, we have to change this body when it ceases to work. Every material thing deteriorates, and like a broken machine or an old piece of cloth, the body becomes useless after a certain length of time.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatrana muyati. Right? In this body itself, we can see how we've been changing, right, from a child to youth to old age, and then when we become youth at that stage, we maintain ourselves for some time. We produce byproducts, and then we become old, and then we it's like dwindling, and then we die. Right? The 6 changes automatically happen in this own body. Right? When we see our photograph, right, 20 years back, we can very clearly see that we've changed our body in 7 years. It is said that every cell in the body changes. That means it is a new avatar after 7 years, like that. So we have been changing the body. Change of body is a natural thing for the soul, but we experience it only when at the time of death, because the soul leaves the body. Until such time, there is a change within the body itself. So when the soul changes the body itself, because the body has become old and useless, right? Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani granati naroparani tata sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani shamyati navani dehi. Right? When just like we change our old clothes, right? After taking bath, we give up our old clothes, or we throw away old clothes, right? Some which is worn out or which is torn or something, right? We give up, we throw away those old clothes and then we buy new clothes. Like that, the soul gives away useless body, which is very old, which is which is not functionable, like that, and then it takes a new body, right? Again, it takes a body, of a child, according to the the whatever is there in the subtle body, right? And the mind, intelligence, and false, whatever desires one has cultivated, one has developed whatever desires and whatever work one has done according to the guna and karma, one attracts a particular gross body, and in that way is born in a particular family, and then it goes on, right? One goes on in the chakra of janma, mrityu, jara, and vyadi, right? Janma, and then between janma and mrityu you have this growing up, maintaining, producing byproducts, old age, and then die. Janma, mrityu, right? And then jara means old age, and then vyadi, disease. Right? We just go ahead like this, like this, like this. And in between, what do? We also produce byproducts. So in this way, it is just like a machine, right? Which dwindles, which does not work after some time. And then we get a new machine and then we throw away this old machine. But one advantage is that of this human machine, this human form of human machine, there is one advantage. What is that advantage, right? We can say, once and for all, we can say goodbye to this body. Which is just a bundle of, pus and urine and, blood and whatnot, causing so much of discomfort, right? Back pain, head pain, headache, and all that, causing so much of discomfort. When we understand this, then what does an intelligent person do? Intelligent person thinks, I don't want a material body, which gives me so much of discomfort and, suffering. I want to get a spiritual body. What is that spiritual body? When we understand that I am the servant of Krishna and my desire is only to serve the Lord, then the Lord will provide us with the spiritual body, which is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. And in that spiritual form, we can go back home, back to Godhead, to eternal service to Lord Sri Krishna. And that is our prayer today and every day. On the auspicious occasion of Sanatana Goswami's Tirubhavtidi and Vyasa Purnima, we can pray and beg to all of our Vaishnava Acharyas coming in our bona fide Guru Parampara or Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, that may our only desire be to satisfy and please our spiritual masters, our Shiksha Gurus and our Diksha Guru. And in this way, let us please Shri Radha and Krishna. Let us get a spiritual body and let us go back home, back to Godhead, to eternal service to Shri Radha and Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Sham. Shri Sanatana Goswami Tirubha Mahamahotsava ki Jai. Vyasa Purnima, Guru Purnima Mahamahotsava ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Dai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So we'll do Harinam Sankirtan now. Let's see who all we have today for our session. So whom all we have? We have Ramya Mataji, Sarvagopeshwari Mataji, Rituparna Bhattacharya Mataji, Karpagavali Mataji, Nisha Mataji. Asmita Mataji has joined us for the first time today. Thank you for joining. Nam Kishori Mataji, and then the rest are all our regular devotees. Nisha Mataji, Leela Nandini Mataji, Anjana Mataji, Sindhu Mataji also joined us for the first time, I guess. Shanta Perima, Anita Mataji, and Umameshwari Mataji. All right. So thank you, Asmita Mataji and Sindhu Mataji, for joining us. Please join us in future also if time permits. Hare Krishna. We'll do Harinam Sankirtan now, and then we will end our session for today. And then we'll meet tomorrow. Namah Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namine Namo Acharya Padhaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaura Katha Damadaya Nagara Gramadari Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirdisesha Sunyavadi Paschatyarishadarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्ता वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय राधा माधव राधे राधे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे राधे जय राधा रस बिहारी राधे राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय कृष्ण बलराम जय राधे श्याम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय राधे श्याम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय राधे श्याम जय राधे 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 श्री राधे जय गुरु परंपरा जय गुरु परंपरा जय गुरु परंपरा जय गुरु परंपरा जय जय प्रभुपाद गुरुदेव गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरुदेव की जय, हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri